I'm here at the Rainbow Crosswalk on Ash Street, just outside the Valemount Secondary School with Village of Valemount Mayor Owen Torgerson. Owen, we've had some vandalism here last night. Somebody spilled some paint and driven through it. What's your reaction to that?
Disappointment, really. When council established the relationship we have with administration and the students of the Valemount Secondary School, we had envisioned, a crosswalk as a symbol of a safe and welcome and open community.
Mm-hmm. I see, just doing a casual survey, there are 7 really deep black dark skid marks on here as well. Doesn't look like it's being received well by certain members of the community.
Not by 100% of the community, and with these kind of actions, I really encourage anybody with any information at all to forward whatever they have to the RCMP.
Right, and I've been watching the kind of the progress of this and getting ready to do a story about the black tire marks, which I think are a disgrace in general. I know what happens in other communities, but that's no excuse. And then when I saw this, and Kiba Dempsey, who's also an employee here at the school, took some photos of this, I thought, wow, this has got to stop. We've got to raise some awareness of people. This is exactly what you said. It's supposed to be a welcoming and inclusive message to the community, and yet it's very disappointing to see what's happened here. So this is a village-funded crosswalk. The funds actually came directly from the village. It wasn't grant-funded this time. It obviously will need to be repaired. Where will that repair money come from?
It will be in a resolution from council in our 5-year financial bylaw as we consider the budget next year.
Are you aware of any other types of coverings that can be put on these paints to make it less vandal able? I'm
not aware of any material that would be free from the kind of vandalism that we're seeing here, the inacceptance and the intolerance that we're seeing.
Right. A police file has been created, I understand, and the RCMP are looking into this. There are many tire tracks around, and perhaps some of the residents in the area might have some video footage as well, so hopefully these people get caught. What would you like to see happen at this point in terms of the state of the crosswalk right now?
Well, I would certainly like to see, again, anybody with information to come forward. We also have to remember that the crosswalk is here to help erase that stigma of, and to remember those that came before us who may have succumbed to hate or intolerance or, that kind of idea. And so we have to hold on to their memory as well. And I'm pretty sure that we'll be in contact with the installers and see what we can do to make a speedy repair.
Well, that's great. Now, I know you were telling me earlier that obviously there are criminal remedies for this type of thing, but it's really getting down to the root of the problem, which is intolerance and misunderstanding, and that some communities use a process instead of a criminal process, use a process called restorative justice. What's that about?
Some of my colleagues have come forward after I shared the Rainbow Crosswalk on social media. They wanted to make me aware of this restorative justice process where, members of the community as well as members of the RCMP form a committee, not a committee of council, it's a committee of the community. And so they would make recommendations to a court or to the RCMP or to the Crown Prosecutor on what they believe to be the remedy, whether it's the perpetrator being responsible for the repairs, whether that's financial, whether it's hands-on. That's typically what a restorative justice committee looks like.
Great. So that may be hopefully part of a solution here that can happen as well. And I think education is another big part of it. That's why we wanted to do a story here. I saw on Facebook this morning that a number of businesses are already discussing putting up rainbow signs and more symbols of acceptance in their business as well.
The more inclusive we could be, Michael, the more welcoming we can be, the safe environment, I'll support it all the way.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and sorry to meet with you under these disappointing circumstances.
Not pleased to be here, Michael, but thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm here in Dunster at the Robson Valley Music Festival, speaking with Derek Shaw, who is the principal of Valemount Secondary School. We're actually not here to talk about the festival, here to talk about the Rainbow Crosswalk and the vandalism that occurred there. Derek, I'm sure you've seen pictures of it, if not in person. What's your reaction?
Very disappointed, Michael. It's since the second day since the Inclusivity Crosswalk was installed, somebody seemed to have some problems with their vehicles. The accelerator seems to stick right at that exact spot because there's a lot of burnouts happening on it. But recently, a few nights ago, there was somebody, it appears to have dropped some paint of some sort on the crosswalk, which really is very disheartening, very disappointing.
Right. Now, can you tell me, because you were one of the proponents of putting the crosswalk there, what's the intent of putting the Rainbow Crosswalk where it is?
Specifically, I mean, it's a bonus for the high school. As a principal of the high school, it's exciting to see that the village has agreed to install an Inclusivity Crosswalk in that location particularly. I mean, there was no crosswalk there at all on Ash Street before. So it's nice to have a regulated crossing for students to be safer crossing the street. But to have such a crosswalk there really sets the stage and allows everybody to know as you walk in and approach Valemount Secondary that everybody is welcome, no matter what your sexual orientation is or what your skin color is or your religious beliefs. Everybody's welcome.
Right. And what does this indicate to you that there's been such vandalism with the car tires and with the paint, etc.? What work needs to be done?
I think education is a big piece of it. I'd like to believe that somebody, whoever is responsible for that, just doesn't understand what it is. It's more than just a pride crosswalk, and I think that given the history, not just of Valemount, but of a lot of small communities, that there are people that do have some homophobia, and that's not to be not taken into account. But I mean, at the same time, I feel sorry for somebody who can't allow somebody else to be who they are without expressing vandalism or some kind of defacing public property. So yeah.
And you say it's more than just a pride crosswalk. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think shortly here, once the sign is out in production now, the village has ordered a really fancy sign that's going to explain what the crosswalk actually represents, and the wording that is on the sign explains it extremely well. Our students at the school, both our GSA, so group, as well as the Mr. T's social justice class, collaboratively work together to come up with the wording that's on the sign. So each of the colors represents a certain group of society, and so if you do look at the crosswalk, there are colors that are not on our traditional pride flag that are on the crosswalk to make sure that everybody's included. So, yeah.
Well, I spoke with the mayor yesterday, and he explained that they're going to try to get working on getting it repaired as quickly as possible and possibly touched up. And of course, it'll be an annual maintenance thing as was planned anyway for it. What do you see that would be helpful for preventing this in the future?
After the first few burnouts and stuff that were on it, I thought the only way that we can actually hold people accountable if they choose to make a poor choice and do something to it is to have some evidence of that. So I started looking into what are the legal reasonings or the legal pieces that we need to do to be able to put a camera up, and where we could put the camera, and then how can we have the camera actually functioning. It's quite easy nowadays with the cameras that they have. The one that we purchased is a high definition camera that will capture images in daylight and at night, and solar powered, and we just need a Wi-Fi signal to be able to record the images, and we have that. So everything came together really, really well. The camera itself, the system requires a monthly payment basically for the service, which is $5 a month. I put a request out for some financial support on the Facebook yesterday, and in a matter of hours 17 people donated $750 to make that happen. So pretty exciting. Yeah.
Right. I think people get a little discouraged when they see something like this, but they have to realize that it's a few individuals, the community's behind it.
100%, yeah. And I made that comment last night. I gave an update just to let people know that there's a lot of support, and it's hard for me personally not to let the actions of one person, who I hope is just not educated in terms of what the crosswalk actually represents, from getting me down, and it's discouraging. But the community is amazing, right? Like the fact that our council has unanimously voted to support this and pay it, because they're not cheap. They're very expensive to install and time consuming initially, the first one to get it done. So to have the village council 100% behind us is another huge voice.
From the education standpoint, what could we do as a community to better educate people about what this is all about?
Well, I think once the sign is installed, I hope that my understanding is that we're going to have some kind of a grand opening, and when the signage gets put up in place, I hope that you can be there to cover that as well, because I think that in itself will be a really important step, right? And then just communication, like any relationship, no matter what it is. If we don't have good communication, things aren't going to be as good as they possibly could be. So I encourage everybody just to speak openly about it. And I do understand not everybody agrees, right? And that's like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to agree with the fact that there's an inclusivity crosswalk on Ash Street in Valemount, but you don't have to go dump paint on it either, right? So yeah. Another piece of the education, I think, and it's something that it strikes a nerve in me as well, in terms of the fact that our sign will state that we are on the traditional territory of Claylay Tenay and the Simpcw First Nations, and one of the colours on that crosswalk is to represent Indigenous peoples that came before us, right? And dumping paint on it, squealing your tires on it, it also has a statement towards Indigenous peoples and the land that we live on and enjoy each day, right? So, and I doubt very much that whoever dumped the paint knew that. So, yeah. I mean, the whole thing has been a very much a group effort. We had a lot of students that were involved with making presentations to the council as well. So that's Valemount that I know, right? That's Valemount that I love. It comes together to make something happen, and I know that a little bit of paint's not going to make it go away. If anything, it's giving us some more education opportunities, right? Just like this one. So, yeah. So thanks for coming out.
Thank you.